In this video, we'll discuss about file handling, right? And we'll see how to create and open and close a file, how to read and write lines in a file, how to read all of the lines one by one from a file, and then we're gonna check condition based and print lines based on a condition. Now, first of all, let's start with what is file handling, why it's important. Now, whenever you're talking about file handling, we're talking about external files. It could be a text file, it could be a CSV file. And the reason we are using an external file is just to store, read, and update data outside the program. Okay, it's going to be stored there. Files are used to store data permanently so it can be used later. That's the main point. So you are storing the data, reading the file, reading the data and update it if you need to, and you store it externally and then use it later on whenever you need. Okay, it is really important because at least 2 points you should remember. Number one, to save the data permanently, and also enables processing of large amounts of information. When you're processing a large amount of information, file handling, external file, text file, CSV file, all those are most appropriate to use. Right now, look at this picture. When you read a book, what do? First, you open a book, then either you read it, or if it is a notebook you're writing on it, and then you close it. Okay, so step number one, open a book, then you read or write, then you close. This is the exact sequence you're going to use when you're doing file handling in programming. So number one, create a file, open it, close it, read, write, and then read all the lines one by one from the file. These things you need to know for a GCSE exam, okay? Sometimes they might ask you to create a file by yourself. Yeah, they might give you the name of the file, or they're gonna tell they're gonna say in the exam paper that a file is already created. They're gonna give you the name already. That means you do not need to create yourself. You just need to open it and either read or write whatever they ask you to do, and make sure to close it. So these two things, basically, if they ask you to create one, you need to create. If they said, okay, this file is created already, that means you do not need to create one. You just start opening it, you read or write, and you close it. Okay, so first say they ask you to create one. How to do that? Now here is the thing. To create a new text file, you just simply write the keyword new file. Please look at this. N is small letter, F is capital letter. New file. Inside the bracket, you're writing the name of the file you are creating. It could be file name.txt, it could be something else.txt, but it should be inside the quotation mark. Now remember, in the exam, if they ask you, if they give you the name of the file already, you need to follow that name exactly as it is. Okay, so here we're just creating a new file, and the name of the file is file name dot txt. It's a txt file. That's it, file is created. And I repeat, if they said file is already created, you do not need to create it. You go with the opening. And how you opening the file? Let's look from here first. The keyword is open. Inside the bracket, after open, you just write down as like this, name of the file you're opening, file name dot txt. Now when you open the file, we need a variable to point to, right? So this, we're opening this file and we just store this in a variable called my file. It could be something else. Your file is x, y, z, whatever, right? And you'll see why it is useful actually. So basically, when you're creating a new file, you do not need to store the value in anywhere, just simply create a file. But when you open the file, make sure you create a variable equals and then open it. So when you are working on that file, you just simply give yourself a pointer to call it up on. So my file, and then when you finish everything, read and write, you close it, right? We're gonna see in a second how to read and write, but this is main three things. First, you create a file, you open the file, you close it. Remember one more time, If you're opening a file, make sure you store this in a variable. This variable could be anything you name it. You can give me X, you can see only file, something else. Right, and whenever you finish, after everything read and write in between, you just make sure write down my file dot close. And this is really helpful because now anytime we need to do close, anytime we need to write, anytime we need to read, just point to this name. So straight away you know which file we are talking about, which variable is pointing to our file opening, right? Which is my file. Now let's go to the next, right? So we know how to create, how to open, how to close. Now in between, of course, we need to read and we need to write. Okay. Now remember the file, when you open, we create a variable and variable is my file. Now you'll see how it is so important. We can point to this now. Right. First, let's read the line. Read the line. What read line is doing is basically reading whatever lines are there. Okay. It just simply dot read line. Look at this R, small letter, L, capital letter. And we are calling this method on my file variable. This my file dot read. And again, this, if you want to print later on, is better. You store the value in a variable. So just simply print line. Okay, that's simply that is. Read the line and store the value in a variable and show the output. Means you're just printing those. Okay, same way, when you are writing, you're not reading it, right? So that means you do not need to write print something, and we do not, that is the reason we do not need any other variable. And we just simply write my file. Remember, this my file is actually this we are pointing at. My file dot write line, small letter W, capital letter I. And then inside the bracket, whatever information you're writing, some text, any input data, or whatever you're doing, right? So when you're writing this, doing this text added at the end of the file, right? Just end of the file is keep adding whenever you're running this code. That's right line. So just look at this line and this line one more time. When you do right line, you do not need any other variable to store this because you're not printing it. You're printing after reading, and that is the reason we just write down my file dot read line, and also we store that value, whatever you're reading, in a variable so we can print that out one by one. Okay, so what we did, we create a file, we open the file, then we read, we write, or we read the file, and then need to close. These are the basic operation, right? For the GCSE, you need to know one more operation, which is how to read all the line, because it's going to give you just one line. Whenever you run this, it's going to print one line, then again another, then another. But how, if there is 100 lines, how can you read all one by one without writing this read line over and over, right? So of course, you're going to write a while loop. And after writing a while loop, you're just writing this condition. Look at this condition. My file is your variable. Let me show you one more time this variable we are talking about. You see how important this variable is. Every time you're writing or reading, you're pointing at this variable, my file dot read line, my file dot write line. That's why my file storing this in a variable is really, really important. Okay, so we are saying my file dot and end of line. Look at that end, E small letter, O capital letter, F capital letter, end of line. That means we're asking, are we at the end, the last line of this file? If it is not the case, you keep reading, right? This line you already see it. My file dot read line, store the value in a variable and print it, and end while. So what is happening one more time? We are running a while loop and we are checking, are we at the end of that file? Is it the last line we are at this moment? If it is not the case, just keep running this line. Line equals my file dot read line. Again, line equals my file dot read line. We will keep doing it and printing it until we are going to the end of file, end of my file. As soon as you hit and say yes, we are my file dot end of file now, then we just end while. Okay, that's how the while loop gonna stops. That's basically you need to know for your GCSE. So what we did, we learned how to create a file. We learned how to open a file, and we know how to close a file. Then we know how to read a file, and we know how to write a file. Remember, when you were doing it, check the difference between reading a file and writing a file. Yeah, the difference is when you're reading a file, you have to create a variable and then store the value after reading the file so you can print that variable. But when you're writing, you do not need to create any other variable. You just simply write the variable you used when you open the file dot write line. Okay, and then of course read all of the lines. We use this beautiful code, and not while not my file dot end of file, and just keep reading line, print it, again read line, print it, again read line, print it, until the condition is met. That's basically you need to know for GCSE. Okay guys, thank you.